Think about what mediocrity is. It's about being in the middle. It's the medium. It's being right in the middle, right? Balance.
Work-life balance. There is none. You're competing with somebody in Mumbai or Shanghai or somewhere else, and they're willing to work 24 hours a day, 8 days a week. And if you're not willing to do that, they're going to kick your ass.
I did what I preached to all of you, which is I put in the work. I gave up all my weekends and holidays.
Work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100 hour weeks every week.
Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
It seems like more than ever, we're being told that if we don't maximize every second, we're lazy, unmotivated, and have no ambition. On top of that, the mounting pressure to reach peak success before you even turn 30 is an added layer.
I mean, we have 19-year-olds making 7 figures by selling courses.
So it's easy to feel left behind. I saw a tweet that said, youth culture is feeling like if you don't succeed by 25, someone will literally come kill you. And that's so real. They say sink or swim, and I don't want to sink, but right now I feel like I can barely tread water. There has to be a better way, and I'm determined to find it. Hi everyone, Sydney here, and welcome to the first episode of My Dear Diary in 2026. I'm so excited to say that and leave the dusty, uneventful, boring, dry year that was 2025 in the past. I need a new start, and I already feel like 2026 is gonna bring incredible things. I'm not even joking. Once I hit midnight on New Year's Eve, I felt changed and reformed and reinvigorated back to my old self, the feeling I haven't had since I probably graduated college. So I feel like that is an omen and bodes well for a very fun, exciting, successful year. This sounds like a little bit of deja vu. It probably is, because at the start of every new year, I feel like I always list off all the things I want to accomplish. I say this is the year, now is the time. And then I start off super strong and end up burning out or feeling frustrated or overwhelmed, and also feeling disappointed in myself because I'm thinking that I could have done more or gone harder. So today, in the spirit of that, I'm gonna talk about my relationship with hustle culture, and not in a anti-work sort of way, or on the opposite, gotta pound the pavement every second kind of way either, but in a way to analyze how to not let your ambition and big goals and dreams crush you. You heard some sound bites in the beginning, and I feel like there's so many more examples I could have pulled from. Those are just probably the most famous ones, the ones that stick in my head. And I feel like this is quite common. When I look up traits of highly successful people, time and time again on that list I see is obsession, hard work, working late nights and early mornings, discipline, everything in that realm. And when I started thinking about where this pressure comes from, I started to realize that maybe it's not that people are working more. They might be. But what I do know for sure is we are seeing it more because it's being showcased a lot more often. We clearly live in an accomplishment culture where it seems like your output is directly tied to your value. And at this point, it's not even about doing the work, but having people think you've done the work. I mean, how many times have you asked someone how they're doing and they respond with super busy or tired, as if them working a lot or feeling burnt out should be rewarded with something because they're being productive with their time or spending their time doing something valuable. Something just they're being productive with their time or spending their time doing something valuable. And this is exactly why people announce things before it even happens, because they want that reward and applause, even if they haven't accomplished it or have no intention of doing so. So from this point of view, it seems like hustle culture has no impact unless you actually buy into the things that hustle culture is teaching you. But that doesn't mean that the pressure isn't real. For me, the pressure doesn't really come from, at this point, what other people think, at least not fully. Obviously, to some extent, I'm still a work in progress in that way, but I carry so much or put so much weight onto how I perceive myself, and feeling like I've wasted potential is the most painful feeling. And that's actually one of my biggest fears. So I feel like Tyler, the creator, said it right when he said, I hate wasted potential.
I hate wasted potential. That shit crushes your spirit. It really does.
It's the idea that if I'm capable of more, why am I not rising to the occasion? This internal pressure for me is the biggest burden, because even if other people aren't paying attention, I'm paying attention to myself, and I don't want to feel like I missed an opportunity. And that weight can turn ambition, which is supposed to motivate you and drive you, into a source of fear and anxiety. Ambition being destructive reminded me of a story I had heard a couple months back from Jimmy Fallon when he was on the Diary of a CEO podcast. So trigger warning, but Jimmy Fallon said that if he didn't get on to SNL by the age of 25, he was gonna end it all, which that's so insane and crazy. But I think that really speaks to the intense obsession he had with his goals and his very firm desire to make things happen in his career. Obviously, that does tie to kind of how one sees themselves, because why do they think a life is no longer living if they haven't accomplished something? But he literally gave it his all. And I wouldn't recommend this to anyone, but he said he had no friends, no hobbies, no community, no money. So I guess that could kind of speak to his low mental state. But this clearly shows you that obsession, in absence of some sort of personal checks and balance, it can be destructive. And it's not just him. We hear these stories of people grinding, giving things their all, obsessing time and time again, where they don't sleep, no rest, no days off. They are solely focused and passionate about their goals. And a lot of people and articles accredit their relentless work ethic to their success, which I'm sure plays a large part. But it does make me wonder how many of these people who have been working overtime actually don't succeed. But do we really know about the people who have failed or burnt out along the way? So is obsession really a prerequisite for being successful? Ambition can crush you when you take it to such an intense level where you have to meet your goals and the internal deadlines must be met, otherwise you won't be satisfied. But it's so easy to fall into this mindset, and that's something I personally am struggling with as we speak. People always say fall in love with the journey or enjoy the ride, but personally that advice doesn't really land. Age pressure really exists. And like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I turned 26 this year. And I'm sure there's so many people who are like, okay, 26 is so young. They're playing their tiny violins. Like, shut up. And I know it is. But when you have things like Forbes 30 under 30, where an age marker and accomplishing something before you hit a certain age is something to be celebrated and cheered for, it does kind of feel like time is slipping away, at least for me. Even when Owen Cooper, the actor who played the kid in Adolescence, made history for being the youngest actor to win an award in his respective category, when that happened, that made me think, oh my gosh, take me back. Like, I wish I was a child star. To be honest, I'm like, I wish I'd accomplished these things when I was younger. Because he was 15 and I got 10 years on him. And I know time is technically arbitrary, but culture has placed so much importance on it, and I have started to as well, and I know that's a habit I need to stop. I do see those compilations quite often of motivating things such as Grey's Anatomy didn't premiere until Shonda Rhimes was 39, or Julia Childs didn't find success until way into her 50s. And yes, that can be comforting, but I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to live your quote unquote best life as soon as possible and as long as possible. I don't know if this is comforting or not, especially if you're a person who craves and needs control. But sometimes I just have to remind myself that the only thing I can do is give it my all and do my best. And my output is not reflective of my success. Because you could be working hard, doing your thing, and that doesn't mean you're necessarily gonna get to the end goal, at least not in all scenarios. So at the bare minimum, you can be kind to yourself and proud of yourself for doing what you say you're going to do, for working hard and trying. I still want the success too and to reach my end goal. So I don't know if this is necessarily a permanent fix, but it's the mindset I'm adopting right now to make sure I keep taking steps in the right direction and not stress out about age, even though, again, I acknowledge I am young. But yeah, age pressure is tough, and I don't think that's something that should be just swept under the rug, because there's probably so many factors or reasons for why the younger generation inherently has more stress. That's something I definitely want to get under control. So maybe I'll make a whole episode on age anxiety. I haven't yet cracked the code clearly. It's something I'm still working through, but when I get good insight, I'll make sure to share it. Okay, now back to Jimmy. Later on in the interview, he was asked, was he actually going to follow through with that? Like, if he didn't land on SNL, would he do what he said he would? And his answer was very interesting. He actually at first couldn't answer. He kind of sat in silence for a second, and then he answered with no. He explained that he knew he was going to make it So it was never even really a consideration. Even though he wrote that down and said it and put that into the universe, he always knew that he was going to reach his goal of being on SNL by the age of 25. And again, I am not encouraging anyone to get this deep and put so much emphasis on their end goal, but it did really illuminate the idea of expectation bias. Expectation bias is basically a phenomenon in where your expectations influence your outcome.
So you usually hear about this in scientific context, but I think it can definitely be applied here too, especially if your expectations change your behavior. This has been substantiated by science. I think an easy example to illustrate this would be like the placebo effect. People are given a sugar pill and they're told it's a very powerful drug. And with that belief, they still actually experience real physiological changes like pain reduction, symptom relief, improved mood. But the important thing to realize is nothing changed. They didn't actually receive a powerful drug, they just received a sugar pill. But their expectation changed their behavior, their perception, and then also their biology. And I think ambition kind of works the same way. Like if you expect things to work out, you don't quit at the first no. You don't interpret setbacks as permanent failure. You just keep going. So for Jimmy, his expectation bias and personal belief didn't guarantee success, but it at least kept him in the game long enough for success to be possible.
This really leads me to want to be the person that thinks everything works out for me. I'm so lucky. All those phrases you hear all over TikTok and social media that can kind of sound manifestational and maybe a little witchy, but they actually do work if you choose to believe and see your life from that lens. So I need to start repeating those things to myself on a daily basis because I can use all the positivity I can get. So I'm not sure on the overall impact of expectation bias and how much it actually tips the scale, but what I do know is that it can be beneficial and can keep you motivated and confident while you're trying to work towards your goals. But even with all this information and these ideas and concepts that you've rectified in your head, it's still hard to live a life without the pressure of achievement and accomplishment. All this can still be so overwhelming, especially when you don't even know where to start. So that's why I'm going to introduce you to my philosophy that I'm bringing into 2026. This year, I'm going to prioritize systems over goals. To be more specific, I create a vision board. I actually love my vision board, by the way. Like, it really speaks to me. I haven't made a vision board in years, probably not since 2019. And maybe that's partly why my goals haven't been achieved. So I'll report back at the end of the year if it makes a difference. But I made a vision board and there's so many things on there. Honestly, the lifetime goals on there that I would love to have occur in 2026. But there's a broad range of things I want and I want to happen. So many that I truly don't know where to even start. So to make things more manageable, I decided to shift my focus from goals and outcomes to systems, which are just daily habits and processes that I'm adopting to feed into my desired outcome. And I think this helps take away the obsession from the outcome because you're more focused on what I need to accomplish today, what I need to get done, rather than I need to make this big ambiguous thing happen and happen now. And to take this even a step further, I broke down my goals into periods and actually wanted to start focusing on goals throughout the entire calendar year. So there's end of year goals, then there are end of quarter goals, and then within quarters, there are monthly goals, then weekly goals, and then that's it. I wasn't gonna do daily goals. That just seems like a lot. But now I can retrofit my actions to meet these desired goals. So if I say, I need to release a podcast a week. Let's use an easy example. Instead of when I look at the end of the year saying I need to have 52 podcast episodes out, which already sounds stressful considering my track record thus far is not that good, but we are changing that around right now. I now say, okay, Monday, today, I need to draft this part of the episode. Tuesday, I need to do this. Wednesday, I'll record. Friday, I'll edit, etc., etc. So then it just is been broken down into small subsets rather than just focusing on the big picture. This isn't rocket science. I think we learn all this stuff in school when we were completing assignments, and we even had agendas because there were daily things you had to get done that fueled into your end of year project or things of that nature. But we tend to forget to apply these same learnings to our personal lives, which can be even more impactful. So that's why my thought for 2026 is to treat myself like I treat my job. I made a TikTok on this actually probably over a year ago, but I remember I was giving my job my all. I was crossing every T, dotting every I, working overtime. And I'm not saying I'm not going to do that, but the amount of care and due diligence I gave work, I need to also funnel into my own goals and myself, because I'm just as worthy as the corporation I'm working for. Because at some point I want to be a corporation. So provide the same level of care and respect to yourself. I hope this is a helpful way for you all to look at it, systems over goals, and then quarterly, annual, weekly goals instead. Just break those down into like bite-sized chunks. Because I think, again, like that changes your focus from obsessing over the outcome to more so how can I better myself every day. And then you'll be able to just consistently build rather than, oh, I need this podcast episode out this week. It's already Friday. I need to plan it, record it, and post it, and make content all in the next 2 days. Consistently good beats occasionally great every time. So I hope this helps you just be more consistent. This isn't a foolproof way, meaning like if you do all these things, like you'll be successful. You know the saying, you plan and God laughs? Yeah, I feel like we need to keep that in mind. But what it does do is give you better chances for success because you're actually doing things daily, making things more manageable, and upholding consistent accountability that I know personally I was lacking because everything was unplanned and unorganized, and it was just, end of the year, I need this. So at least it's helping you take daily steps forward to make progress. And while planning this out, don't forget to include some sort of fun. I think your social life can be a part of your goals because it's such a heavy emphasis on the way we feel about ourselves. It will make the hard work feel more rewarding when you know you have a social plan at the end of the week. So make sure you factor all of that in and prioritize your health and mental well-being at the same time. And in the past, I would confuse hustle culture for suffering and would feel like my free time was being wasted. And I think the issue was I didn't have this sort of metric or framework to follow that would make me uphold accountability and then know I actually am doing something. Because when I was working, I'll say in air quotes, I was pretty much twiddling my thumbs, planning, not putting anything out there, not really doing. And so when I was having fun, I couldn't fully enjoy myself because I knew I wasn't doing what I needed to do during the times where I should have been doing it. It's like when you're in school and you have a class and they give you that time to work on the paper. Let's say that. You have a free hour to work on the paper. I would never work on that paper, and I could have taken advantage of the time that I was actually given and dedicated to working on that paper instead of then cutting into the fun times that I wanted to have because I didn't actually use my time efficiently and effectively. So then if I was hanging out with a friend, I'm like, oh, I need to be working on my paper, can't enjoy this. Now I actually do have to leave and go home to get it done. So it's all about just using your time more effectively. And that's why business isn't a flex, because that kind of seems like you lack time management skills. And I don't want to be that person. But yeah, I firmly believe life is worth living and you don't win an award for suffering. So why don't you do what you need to do in the time that you need to get it done so you can still enjoy and live life, and having social plans and some sort of community or other hobbies will actually give you that stability to continue working hard when you need to. So after all of this, I've come to the conclusion that hustle culture isn't inherently bad. Like most things, it's just when it's taken to the extreme or interpreted in a negative way that makes things bad. Often I think the issue of hustle culture is the assigned moral value and perception that if someone isn't doing or producing something that is worthy, then they aren't a worthy person. And it's okay to acknowledge that many of the reasons why hustle culture can feel very stifling and simply just annoying is because many of the messengers aren't ones that you may want to resonate with or simply just don't resonate with. For example, that Kim Kardashian clip, is she wrong? I don't know. I don't really know if people don't want to work these days. I feel that's a common trope people try and push on Gen Z and younger workers because they don't want to follow the status quo. But her points that followed about working hard, making sure that the workplace is a place that actually cares about you and helps you thrive, and finding right fit, both from like the business end and from the employee end, and giving things your all and doing something you're passionate about. That was all true. It's just that the messenger wasn't one that a lot of people wanted to hear from. Same thing with the Set Active founder. And I'm not picking on women. These are just because I look at women's content because I am a woman and I feel like I'm more versed on their stuff because I'm not going out my way to listen to men 90% of the time. Sorry. She said something along the lines of, why are you packing up your bag at 5 p.m. and rushing home? You should be over here giving your job your all. Again, the message didn't land well because she had old clips in the past that have resurfaced of her saying how she was unfulfilled in her job and was just so eager to quit. So if you are spreading this message of hustle culture, you got to be the person who is actually hustling all the time, got it out the mud. Well, maybe not even got out the mud, but as a prime example of actually doing all of these things in order to actually be a reliable narrator. And I think that's just the problem and reason for why a lot of like these leader sentiments fall on deaf ears, because they can come off as very tone deaf and not appreciated, even if there are nuggets of truth hidden within it. So I personally have no issue with hustle culture. Hustling isn't the enemy when it's done intentionally and sustainably, or just in a way that fits best with your lifestyle. Because my hot take, and might not even be a hot take at this point, especially when you have the Red Polish probably saying the same thing, I don't believe in balance, at least not in the traditional sense. You have to give to get. And that just to me is common sense. I can't be doing regular things and expect crazy, extraordinary, phenomenal results when everything I'm doing is average and regular. And now there are some people who have done absolutely nothing and blew up or got super successful, but that's the exception, not the rule. And that's why I disagree with the, I don't have kids, I don't have to go as hard. Because I think when you don't have kids, you should go even harder. Because you don't have the responsibility of taking care of a household. You inherently have more free time if you prioritize things correctly. So why not do the most you can when you have that freedom and only have to take care of yourself? I honestly just believe in working as hard as you can while you are young. Jill Scott had actually said, you work hard in your 20s, you work smart in your 30s, you work how you want to in your 40s, work when you want to in your 50s, and work if you want to in your 60s. And this isn't a one size fits all. I'm just saying, while time is on your side, freedom is on your side, do what you can. Keep in mind, this is coming from me, a person who actually doesn't want a life of leisure at all. Maybe I'll eat my words in the future and I reserve the right to be wrong, but I want a life of adventure. I hate being stagnant and still and bored. I want to be out and about. I want fun. I just want a lot of things going on. And I do like being busy, not in the sense that I'm forced to be doing all these things, but just because I want to. So that's why I am a firm believer of doing it while you can. But those are just my priorities and my goals. So the point is you prioritize what you want because you get to define your ambition. You get to find your pace and your definition of success. So unsurprisingly, the way to free yourself from toxic hustle culture is by caring less what others think or caring less about other people's definitions and defining things yourself and trusting yourself and going from there. Because you don't need other people's opinions to decide if you're doing enough because you'll never all agree. You don't need other people's opinions to decide what you should be doing with your life. You just need to listen to yourself. And I think that'll release you from the clutches of toxic hustle culture. Clearly the way to unburden yourself is caring about other people's opinions less, which probably will solve a lot of our problems, but I feel like we aren't wired to do that. So it's a work in progress. So everyone, take the time, write down your goals for the year, breaking them down into the different quarters and months, and then also just focus on the system so that you don't have to feel overworked and overwhelmed every day because you're scared that you've wasted your potential by not doing anything because you don't even know where to start. And remember to prioritize your own opinions above all else because you are not defined by what you do in life or how much money you make. Create your own definition and live for that. Thank you all so much for listening. If this episode helped you in any way, connected with you, please leave a review. And as always, feel free to reach out to me for specific content and topic requests because we are going all in 2026. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.